What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Wars in the Stars movie reviews, episode number 9. Today, we're going to talk about Antman and the Wasp, Quantumania. I'm going to turn it over to my co-host real quick because I got to fix my mic because it's not checking out. So I'll let him introduce himself and say what's up.
Yeah, hello. I'm Jonah Davis, or known as Stormy Davis here. And I'm really excited to talk about this movie. I think there's a lot of reviews and opinions out there that what's it called that I don't personally agree with. But there's a lot of mixed things about the movie, and I'm excited to get your thoughts on it. Yeah.
All right, we should be good now. All right, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, you're all good.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, I am excited as well to talk about this film. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I'm interested to hear what somebody else has to say about it. I know it's, I guess you could say, a controversial film online, to say the least. So yeah, I mean, I guess let's get right into it right away. What are your thoughts on the film? What do you just think overall in general?
Well, I think it's a very really average MCU movie. I don't say it didn't wow me. Besides the villain, I thought the script was a little bit weak. But I mean, it's an alright MCU movie. I think it's the best in the trilogy. But for Ant-Man, it's not saying that much, to be honest. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the word average is the most appropriate here. I think when you look at the audience score, I think the audience score is around like an 80%. I checked on Rotten Tomatoes today, and I think the critic score is around like 40%.
It's 40.
Uh, yeah, I'm around in the middle. I think there. I think my review yesterday gave the movie like a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10.
Exactly
I don't
what I.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think this movie is bad. It's like one of those films like you like it, and I think we'll get more into it. But like this is a movie like you kind of have to turn your brain off and just watch it. And that's kind of my big problem with it, especially the way they marketed and propped up this film. But yeah, I liked it. I can say I like it, but like it didn't do anything that wowed me. That minus like you were saying, Kane. And I think we'll get into more intricate details as we go on. But yeah, I would say the first Ant-Man I still like better.
Mm.
I think from a story standpoint, it's just better. From a film standpoint, I think it's better.
Previous Ant-Man films have better scripts and plots, in my opinion. This one I just found more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. You could make an argument that this might be the worst comic book trilogy of all time.
Yeah, probably.
You could probably make an argument for that, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
with
Blade, because Blade has a pretty mediocre trilogy, in my opinion.
that is true. That is true. That is true as well. So yeah, I mean, I guess let's get into it. We'll do this. What was the one thing that you thought was? We'll start with bad. What did you think was bad in this film? Like really bad.
Um, Cassie, I didn't like Cassie in this movie at all. I feel like she was just bitching all about her father, how she hasn't done this. It's like all these Avengers are retiring, and you're getting mad at your dad for trying to retire. Like literally every event, all the core Avengers have retired. Like yeah, Tony's dead. Steve retired. Hulk's retired. Hawkeye's retired. Black Widow's not with us. It's like all the main Avengers basically have retired. And Thor's Thor tries to go into retirement. But when her dad, she's like, I hear, oh, Dad, why aren't you trying to help people anyway? So, bro, just let him go into retirement. Everybody else wants to spend time with the kids. But when he wants to spend time with his kids, oh, no, Scott, that's a big no-no for you.
Yeah, I could definitely see that for sure. I know a lot of people online have complained about, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know if I thought this in the theater, and I've been trying to think more about it if I agree with it. But a lot of people have said that Catherine Newton didn't turn in a good performance, or also her script was weak. I don't know what you thought about that.
There was a moment where it was like Ant-Man was about to get to the portal, and she's just standing there like her what's it called? I forgot Michelle Pfeiffer's characters. I don't know. Janet and Hank all
Janet, yeah.
there, and she's just standing there like, Dad, no emotion after her dad's getting like bodied by King. Just Dad, it was just like no, there's no emotion, no nothing. I was me and my friend bursted out laughing in the theater. It was so we were like, her acting wasn't all bad, but like when it was bad, it was bad.
Yeah, I could definitely see that for sure. I think my bad. There's some weird editing in this film, like some weird CG and stuff. Like the one that stuck out to me the most was when they were both big, like Ant-Man and Cassie, and I had no idea that they were big.
If they didn't say anything, I would not have known.
I would have not have known. They were like, "We're giant right now," and I'm like, "What? What are you talking about right now? What is happening?" I'm
Everything
like,
looked scaled to their size. Like the platform they were on looked fine. The debris around them looked like at the same size. I was like, okay.
there was no scale to it because I'm like, we saw Scott Big, and Scott Big looked like he was much bigger than like Kane's Fortress and stuff like that.
It was
And
bad.
then it looked like he was the same size, and I'm like, what's going on? The scaling was like terrible. And then there was a scene, I can't even remember what it was now, but it was like a cutaway shot, and it was like I can't remember if it was like Modoc. I can't remember because it like all kind of blurred together, and it was like the worst cut thing I've ever seen. And it was just like a random shot. I think it might have actually been a Cassie, and she was just standing there, and it was just like a weird cut. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what is happening right now? Like, it was there were some really bad editing moments and like transition moments I thought in this film, um, that were really subpar. Like the film, like I felt like I was watching at points like Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Like I literally thought that. Like it was a big googly glop. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, some of it looked really cool, and then a lot of times I'm like, that did not look good. I mean, they tried to push the bounds with this film, but I'm like, okay, this does not look good. So yeah, I think that was a big bad for me. And what do you think about that?
Oh yeah, no, editing was definitely like a little bit off. And too, even the CGI first two acts was so bad. I like couldn't like green screen everywhere. It was like right after I was like, damn, did like Bill Murray cost this much money to like your first two acts were like not CGI available? Because the third act, in my opinion, looked really good. Other than like the that like one growing moment, and I thought the third act looked really good. Like all the characters like were there. And it was too like all of it was CG. Like that whole final battle was CG, and I couldn't really tell that much. I was like, this was really well done. But the first two acts, I all I saw was green screen. It reminded me of like the Thor: Love and Thunder village scene, where it's like it's just everything's green screen. I'm like, oh, but, this was I'd say like what was Wakanda Forever had really good VFX. I think this movie also like for other than the first two acts, it had decent CGI in it.
Okay, so now we'll go into something. One thing that you thought was like mediocre or okay about this film. What was something you thought was just okay?
Hmm. I want to say Modoc, but like Modoc is low key my guilty pleasure in this movie. What was okay? Oh, the character arcs that the characters go through. Nobody really goes through a character arc, but then at the same, like the only person that's like a full character arc in this movie is unironically Modoc. Think about it, nobody else has a full character arc. It's not that that was bad too, because I think it was fine because most of their arcs have kind of been like completed already. Like Scott's arc has already really been completed in other films. That's what I thought was like. I was like, oh, there's no story arc, which is fine. But when they tried to do that, I just feel like it landed like on its face. Like I said earlier, with like the whole thing with Cassie and like how she tried to have her father go from like wanted out of retirement to wanting to be a superhero. They tried to do that arc, which I was like, that's okay. So just like the characters kind of just motives kind of was just okay to me. It wasn't bad because I wasn't like, man, where are there no character arcs in this film? But like I was just like, oh, that's an alright part. Like the motivations of the characters besides Kang.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. That's actually something I will add was like okay to bad for me. Honestly, it's like I'm watching this film, like and I was thinking about it afterwards. I'm like, what were any of their character arcs in this film? Like what? Like they just felt pretty stagnant to me. Um, and I think a strength of the Ant-Man films has honestly been the family dynamic, and I think it was a huge strength in the first film. Uh, the sense of them coming together, and this is the first film where they're really all together, like the
Yeah.
whole family, the Pims and Scott and all of that. So I would expect it to come to full culmination here, and I really didn't feel that. It really didn't give me that vibe at all. I felt like it was the weakest of the 3 in that aspect with the family dynamic, and it should have been the strongest, especially since this story should have been focused on Cassie and Scott.
Yeah.
And I think like, a mediocre thing for me was MODOK. MODOK was cool. I don't get the complaints that he looks goofy, that's the point. He's
Yeah.
supposed to look goofy.
Oh no, when he
Uh
the whole theater laughed. Oh my god. It was so funny.
I think the whole time I was just like, "Take it off, take it off, take the mask off, take it off," and it was goofy, and it was good, and it worked for me. The scene on it honestly kind of worked for me when he was like, "I'm a dick." That kind of worked for me, honestly.
It was the character development moment for anybody in the movie.
Yes,
His
yes, it was.
being like, this prick and everything, him sacrificing himself. Bro had an arc. I was like, I respect that Bodak's the only person that has an arc. You know what? You get points for me in that department.
Yeah, he was goofy, but I liked it, and it worked for the film. And I also think another thing that was okay for me was like the development of the quantum realm itself, to learn about the people of the quantum realm, to learn that Kane has basically pillaged these people away from their homes. He's a ruthless conqueror, and these people are native to this, um, and they're try and take their land back. And I think it was some good world building. It felt fantastical. I like fantastical type of stories, and I kind of appreciated that. It was a good mix of like these primitive people living in this fantastical world that's unimaginable to us, but to them, this is their home and it's been pillaged. I thought that was something that was really good, and something I could like. It was just something that was cool, and it was easier to relate to, I think.
Oh yeah, so I have another okay thing I just thought of. Hope's entire character. This is not an Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. This is an Ant-Man movie. I lined so hard. I felt so bad for Hope. And when she was on screen, I liked her, but she wasn't on screen. Like, where was she? Like, because with it was her, Hank, and Janet. The film was focusing on Janet, which isn't a bad thing. I'm happy they focused on Janet because she has the most experience in this realm. But Hope was
Mm.
sidelined the whole movie. It felt like she really had nothing to do like that.
Yeah, I was really interested too, because especially in the first part of the movie, they introduce her as like, oh, she's the head now of Pym Tech. She's doing all these great things. She's obviously becoming more advanced. And then it's just like nothing. It's just like she's there. Like, yeah, I agree with you. Pretty okay. Like, and she was like good, I thought, and especially Ant-Man and the Wasp. I do not like that movie. That movie is like maybe my least favorite MCU film, but she was pretty good in that one, I thought. But then this one just like it's like no real standout moment at all.
Yeah.
I do want to go to something that's bad actually that I think about it now. At the end of the movie, okay, tell me if I'm wrong about this. So when they explain Cassie's machine, right?
Yeah.
They explain it as a thing that can map the quantum realm. They never explain it as a thing that could get you out of it.
That was a plot hole. I said that in the theater. Because the only reason they're there is because, which like I find this so funny because a lot of people don't like him. The whole film wouldn't be possible without MODOK. MODOK was the one who found the signal, and MODOK's the one who brought them into the quantum realm. It's all MODOK's fault. And so I was just like, so when they were trapped, I was like, oh my god, they're trapped in the quantum realm. That's such a cool ending. I low key kind of predicted this, and then the portal opens, and I'm like, hold up, didn't MODOK open the portal and suck y'all in the first part? Like, how'd y'all open the portal?
Yeah. I was just I'm like, this was like a map. This was not like a thing that could.
Yeah, she said it could communicate with the quantum realm. That was it.
Not a thing to put. Yeah, I was like, what just happened? What just happened? Okay. What did you find really good about this film? Because I think we're going to agree on this as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna be a little bit different because I'll let you talk about the main person. Like I said, my guilty pleasure in this film was MODOK. He was so stupid, but it was so funny. I only got irritated at one part, was when Cassie was like off the ledge. She like pulled herself up, and bro's going through this whole monologue. You have nowhere to go, Cassie. You can't. This is the end for you. I was counting down like 15 seconds. He was talking. He could have shot her, and then when he escapes, like he blows up the bridge in front of her. There's nowhere to go. Like, bro, you just said that in your last villain monologue. You just said there was nowhere to go, Cassie, 2 times in a row. That was like the only part where I was like plot armor, which is I guess low-key like a bad thing. I felt like characters had plot armor in this movie. But yeah, other than that, I thought he was funny. I actually liked the design with the helmet on and off. And I like how he was kind of like bullied by Kane. That also like goes into his character arc of like why he's such a dick. Now, like he thinks he has all this power over all these people, but Kang puts him in his place. I thought he was. I just enjoyed Modoc. He was like I said, guilty pleasure for me personally. But, other than that, Kang was in this movie phenomenal. My favorite scene with him actually was the scene where like he what's it called? They had like the time orb thing for his time chair, and like he
Hmm.
blows up like the whole shed they're in, and he's like walking out there like sweating and everything. I was like, oh my god, he was like terrifying in that moment. Like even like Janet too was scared. That was a really good moment too. Like when he was just done like with this whole act of him being this nice guy. He just was let loose. That's what I wish we saw a little bit more in this film, and what we saw at the end.
Listen, this is a very unbiased review, okay? We don't have any biases here. We're just saying what we thought. I think it was average, but we'll continue to discuss that. Kane to me was fantastic. Um, Majors I thought killed it in the role. There's obviously so many cold lines now. I think one of my favorite lines that he says is like, "You're lucky, I need you." That was like, damn, damn, that's straight up cold. I also love the backstory they allude to about him, and I don't know if you felt this way, but I was like, I would rather watch that right now. Can you show that? Like every time they were like, "Oh, I've pillaged so many worlds, I've conquered so many timelines." And I really like this idea that they've made him like a broken man because he's seen how time ends. He knows that his variants will just destroy time, will destroy everything. And he's a broken man because he thinks he's doing the right thing. And really he's not, even though he's trying to prevent incursions by conquering timelines, he's still pillaging and killing trillions of people. And I thought that that's just really interesting. And out of all the Canes, he was banished himself. He was a combination of ruthless, like calculated, technologically advanced, and just like broken. Almost, you could tell he was almost broken. And I think Majors did a great job. And it's crazy to think that this was like kind of bitch made Kane. This ain't even like the best Kane we'll see in the MCU. I will say one thing. I'm not a huge fan of him losing. I wouldn't have minded if he just got trapped in a different way.
Mhm.
I didn't like that, like he just got sucked in and lost to Ant-Man out of all people.
Even early in the film, he's like, "Oh yeah, I beat Thor." Okay, but like you're out here struggling with Ant-Man, the Wasp, and his 16-year-old daughter, bro. Like,
Yeah.
get some help when he killed Thor, because like even though the two he said like Thor with the hammer, which is probably like pre-awakened, pre-Stormbreaker, pre-Ragnarok Thor, which a little bit weaker. But even then, I'm like, after that ass whooping, I don't think you might have maybe your army like helped you a little bit when you took down Thor.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I thought Kane was fantastic. But now I think we could just go into a general discussion about the film and um just what do we think? Where do we think we go from here? What are we disappointed with the start of Phase 5? What are just some other general thoughts you have kind of about this film and where we go from here?
Well, before we go from here forward, one that got me, especially for the second end credit scene. I'm thinking we're gonna have like a clear direction of Phase 5 by the end of Loki, because even at the end of this film, like it like kicks off Phase 5. I don't really like get how it kicks off Phase 5. Like, where are we going from here? Like, there's all these Kang variants. I don't know what they're planning. The only like answers I'm really gonna have is in Loki season 2, because after this, like, I have no clue what they're gonna do. Like they just showed me like they just tease stuff. I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what the future of Ant-Man is or anything. I don't know the future like with his family. I hope we get like a King special presentation or something on Disney Plus, because like I feel like that would be so interesting to watch. But yeah, no, I just for where it's gonna go in the future, I don't know. I think Loki is when we'll get like a definitive answer where we're going in Phase 5, and that's the start of it for being as the start. Like it's just, I feel like there would have been a better movie than Ant Man to start off Phase 5. I think Loki season 2 would have been, like I said, a better thing to start it off. But yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I honestly agree with that, and we could discuss, I guess, the post-credit scenes. Um, the first one, like honestly, it was cool, but it was also like goofy as hell. Like when I watched the end of it, like I'm like, why are these dudes screaming? I'm like, what is going on? They were just screaming. I was like, what is happening right
It hit
now?
Roman Coliseum vibes.
Yes, it did. I mean, it was cool to see like Immortus. It was cool to see Ramatat, Scarlet Centurion.
Bro, I freaked out, and I was like the only person that freaked out. I had to like calm myself down. I was like, "That's the guy from the comics, from the comics." Like, this one dude looked at me. I'm like, "Oh, my bad, bro. I'll take it down a little bit. My bad."
And then we had like a scroll cane. We had like weird looking dudes. Yeah, I liked it, but I was like, okay, so what does this
Yeah, what
mean?
you go now? Like,
So there's just a bunch of canes, and they're like, okay, these normal people are meddling with the multiverse.
mhm.
So what do we do now? It's like, what? It's like so confusing.
Yeah, that's why I said I feel like Loki will hopefully expand on where we're going future in this phase.
And I liked the second post credit scene for that reason better because it is rumored we're going to deal with multiple Kane variants in Loki season 2. And we saw Victor Timely. Obviously, Victor Timely obviously is a Kane variant that travels back into the 1900s and is kind of presents stuff that's technologically advanced for the time. Um, so Loki season 2, I think will give us answers to what's going on there with these Kane variants. Um, and again, I don't know because it doesn't seem like these other Kanes, like Immortus, Ramatat, and Scarlet Centurion, are interested in like conquering.
Well, in the comics, Immortus is he's one of the oldest Kangs, and his all the Kangs were like in the comics. There's just the Council of Kangs in the comics. And
Right.
Kang's goal is to be the last Kang standing. That doesn't mean that they want to like manipulate, throw each other off, but they're all like kind of preying on everybody's downfall. And Immortus is like the key one to like he's the one who's like trying to calculate to stay alive the longest and be the last one, so he can kind of have everything to himself.
Right. And they do kind of allude to that fact that like I think Ramatat says it to Scarlet Centurion, like, oh, I bet you're upset you're not the one who killed him.
Yeah.
Um, which is also very fascinating. Like there's like one Kane that they had to banish. That's interesting to me. These are all pretty much conquerors that like to pillage timelines or like to be in control of time itself. And there was this one, they're like, this guy is too dangerous, which is so interesting. But yeah, I think the post credit scene set up interesting stuff. Again, I just worry about like how many more times are we gonna see this dude? We're gonna see him in Loki season 2, but then when do we see him after that? We got to see him again. I feel like you can't just. I feel like you got to have, especially with him, since Kane is so complex because there's different variants of him. We all have different motives. That you kind of have to see more of them.
Mhm.
I hope that. So I don't know like how this is all gonna work because like, then again, there's this rumor that this Kane that we met in Ant-Man's the one who's the villain of Secret Wars, who becomes like a Beyonder Kane. They combine the powers of the Beyonder. So like
I don't
I
know.
don't know what you do.
Maybe that Kang gets like he's not. Maybe he's not dead because like it doesn't show him dying technically. There's a lot of people like to say nowadays, if I don't see like a dead body, then I'm not taking 100% that he's dead.
Right.
So he could be like this. Kang could I feel like become the Beyonder where he like goes somewhere else, either deeper into the quantum realm or that time thing took him to a different place in time. He could be
Hmm.
Victor Timely for all we know. That could be Victor Timely is the Kang we meet here. Yeah, or he could just like get the powers of Beyonder somehow, or he becomes the Beyonder. Because like you said with that rumor, that's the only way I can really see it is like if he gets lost somewhere and becomes the Beyonder later on.
Yeah, like this idea that like he goes into the Beyond verse or something like that and gets the powers of the Beyonder, and then yeah, it's really interesting how they're gonna play this because then again, like I said, you have you have him in this film, you introduce him in this film, which again, this is more uh than we ever had Thanos to before Infinity War. Thanos is in Guardians and he's in a couple post credit scenes, but um and he's alluded to, but we never saw like a movie with him. This was the movie where he was the main villain. And then we'll get more of him in Loki too, but then we'll get a few years a gap where we really don't know
Unless
when
they
we'll see him.
you could
But we just don't see him again. I don't know what you were gonna go
Yeah,
ahead.
they do like a secret invasion type thing with him, where like Kang is all over the place in these universes. But then again, I don't really know if they go for that because they have secret invasion going on now.
Right. Also, this idea that like maybe Fantastic Four. I don't like
I
possibly.
think a villain of Fantastic Four because he's a Fantastic Four villain.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a problem with that. Trying to think of what else he could be in. I mean, there's a lot of Earthbound stuff. I feel like he can't really interact with those characters yet. I
A
feel
lot of
like it's guy.
right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. And then I think in the Kane Dynasty, honestly, I think it's probably the next time we see the Council of Kanes, and I could see it being multiple Kanes.
Yeah,
Honestly, being in that film with like different groups of Avengers, even, and then that all setting up into Secret Wars where you get one Kane, probably the Beyonder Kane or something like that. And then I honestly think, I don't know what you think, but I honestly think it's all going to end how He Who Remains described it. It's just going to be one timeline again, and he's going to be back leading it again.
yeah. Well, it's either I think he'll either lead it again or it's gonna be like the big Marvel Endgame level sacrifice where a character we like takes his spot and they're trapped in the void that we found He Who Remains in the first place.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way they're going to go so they can prevent the like, hey, He Who Remains is like, hey, I'll do it again. And they're like, no, we're not going to let that happen again. You're done. So yeah, I think that's the way it's going to go. But I do agree with you. This being the first film of Phase 5, it tricked us because the trailer for this film was really good. The few trailers for this film were really, really good. And it tricked us. It tricked me for sure. Um, and I think Kane being the main villain was fine, but maybe not in an Ant-Man film. I understand what they're going with because this film kind of is in some way inconsequential because it happens in the quantum realm. It's not really affecting our heroes yet, our full lineup of heroes.
Mhm.
It still has impact. Um, but yeah, I think could have began with a different cast and crew that was more like of Avengers level threat. I mean, the writer for this, Jeff Loveness, was saying that this was like an Avengers level film. I didn't feel that.
Yeah, well, I believe there was an alternate ending that was told. I think somebody, I saw it somewhere. It was rumored that at the end of the movie, Hope and Scott were going to be left in the quantum realm, and that Cassie was going to be sending a signal to the Avengers because, like, they're stuck in there with Kang still, and so they were going to like send a message to the Avengers, but that ending got scrapped, is what I heard.
Yeah, I honestly would have liked that better. Honestly, it would have really tied in everything better and been kind of like a consequential end of the trilogy. There was no real like was it like Civil War ending or like even Iron Man 3 or Ragnarok. There was no I'm not saying you need a big death every time,
Hmm.
but like I feel like with this cast and crew you kind of did.
Yeah, it was like I told you a few weeks back when we did the trailer. I was like, I don't feel like anybody's gonna die, which
Yeah,
nobody died.
nobody died and I'm like there was a couple times where I'm like, "Oh, damn."
Yeah.
Like just like really
Like,
that would have been an impactful moment. It's just like this film felt I don't know if you agree with this. I said it in my review. I said this film felt like devoid of any emotion. Like it just felt like we were just going through the motions. Action piece, action piece, action piece. Oh, little development for Kane, action piece. Kane, action piece. I don't know. That's how I felt when I was watching the movie.
yeah, like I said, maybe if everybody liked Modoc as much as I did, we would have all felt and we all cried for that Modoc death. That was the only like big thing, and I guess was it like a light bulb head dude got exploded.
Yes. Light bulb, dude. Yes.
That was a cool
Yes.
death. Oh my god. Okay, like spun it around and shot it back in his head. I was like, oh my god.
Yes. That was yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Um I do want to ask, this is an interesting conversation. So, are we worried about because this film obviously is very divisive. We're coming off Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which I think you would agree was generally liked, was generally like really good phase for a film. But then you're coming off of a stretch where we had She-Hulk, Love and Thunder, and Miss Marvel. where all three of those were not loved, especially Love and Thunder and She-Hulk, I would say.
Yeah. Miss Marvel was
So
lame, actually.
yeah, Miss Marvel I think was the best out of those three. Um, so we're coming off of a rough stretch, and even Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness was controversial,
Mhm.
somewhat. What do you think is up? Are you a little bit worried that we're seeing not even Eternals, if you remember, had a rotten score? I
Yeah.
personally think it's a fine film, but are you a little bit worried, a little bit alarmed? We're not getting good quality of content. Are you a little bit worried about that?
Yeah, if you asked me like 5 days ago, I would, but then Marvel announced that they're gonna start putting more like quantity, sorry, quality over quantity
Right.
now. And like for like the past these MCU projects, I've felt that for the most part they're all right. I liked Multiverse of Madness. I feel like a lot of people were just disappointed because cameos, like the cameos that were in that movie. But I thought that movie was actually pretty good.
Hmm.
Miss Marvel, I thought was just okay. Like I said, okay project. Thor: Love and Thunder, okay project. She Hulk was okay. You might not feel the same way, but I know a lot of people don't like that show. I thought it was just inconsequential. Wakanda Forever was good. We're like on a three-way okay streak, in my opinion. One good streak, one bad streak. So it's just like we're feeling really inconsistent. While with early in the MCU, nobody really complained. Like it was good film after good film. They weren't like cinematic masterpieces, but like every MCU film was good. And I feel like we're kind of losing that quality, like as we're getting deeper into the MCU. And so I just hope now that they're doing more quantity over quality that will fix that issue.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I just feel like I don't know if it's gotten to the point where it's stale almost, but it's
I,
feel like oh, go ahead.
me personally, I'm feeling a tiny bit of MCU fatigue, just a tiny bit, just because their projects haven't been all that. The recent, like I haven't been like out of a MCU movie and been like, wow, that was really something. It was Wakanda Forever, which I really liked. I liked Wakanda Forever. I didn't come out like, wow, that was just. Well, I'm gonna go talk about that movie. Like Wakanda Forever had no word of mouth. Like out of like the first 2 weeks of release, I had nobody talk about that film afterwards.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like Wakanda Forever, I think was actually I got out of the theater and I'm like, okay, that felt like a good Marvel film. That's what I literally said. I was like, okay, that was a good Marvel film. And I was like, okay, maybe they're getting it together. Maybe they're getting it together. And then I walked out of this film and I'm like, this just feels like I'm watching Phase 4 again. Just feels like we can't find a consistency.
Yeah, just another
Um,
project.
yeah, I mean, Love and Thunder. When I watched it, I literally put my hands in my face. I said, "What did I just watch?
I said,
What did I just?"
friend. I like he said, I'm done with the MCU. I'm no more. I'm like, come on, just watch. It's Thor. Come on. And I had to apologize when the movie ended.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like I was like, "Are you serious? Did I just watch that?" And then it's weird because I really liked Moon Knight and Multiverse of Madness came out. It was like there was like a stretch from like Shang-Chi was good, and then like Eternals was okay, and then No Way Home was a great time, and then we got Moon Knight and Multiverse of Madness. I'm like, okay, we're doing pretty well. I didn't love Phase 4, but it was like I was in a Marvel high. It was like a really good time. Low key the year before, and then just this last year, I feel like has been a lot of projects, a lot of stuff inconsequential, a lot of stuff not good that I don't care about. That is just subpar and it's like low on my MCU list. And yeah, you can't just put out mediocre content. You got to put out something great, in my opinion. And they haven't put out something great. eh, Considering the amount of projects they put out, you got to put more stuff out that's really good. And again, I'm not saying they need to have a stretch like they had from the later stages of Phase 2 all the way to like Infinity War, because that stretch was insane. Like it was just good movie after good movie. They don't need to do that, but they need to have something that's just more consistent. And I think Guardians 3 will be good. I have complete faith in James Gunn. And then Miss Marvel just got delayed, so I assume they're gonna put some more, effort, rewrites possibly into that.
They got like 3 extra months for that movie, I think.
Right, yeah. So hopefully, and then only maybe now two MCU Disney Plus shows this year, Loki and Secret Invasion. So we'll see. We'll see. But I gotta ask, what else do you want to say about this movie? What other thoughts do you have?
I forgot what the character's name was. You know, the mind reader in this movie.
Correct.
They had an Oscar-nominated actor for that role. This guy's really good, and I feel like he was wasted. Oh my goodness, he is such a good actor. He is so good.
Really?
Completely, yeah, he's completely wasted in this movie. Like he has so much talent. People are fan casting him too for Reed Richards a little bit. He was so good in this movie. Also, he's so good in like all these other movies. I feel like he was wasted. Bill Murray in the MCU wasted. I mean, I think he dies. I think he got killed by the tentacle drink monster. I think the tentacle drink monster like slammed him on the floor. I feel like the actors too in this movie were a little bit wasted. Like so especially
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. We have like a really good cast. Douglas, Pfeiffer, Paul Rudd, like really good cast, and it's just like,
they only focus on like three.
yeah, just a big googly glop. Yeah, it's weird. I didn't know that guy. What movies is he in? Because I recognized him. Like I don't know.
Yeah, he's most recently been in Midsummer, and I think he was in Moonlight, which is where he got a lot of critical.
Oh yes, now I know exactly. Yeah, now I know exactly. Yeah, he was wasted. I didn't know he was that. Like I really, you could have put him in like a better role where it's not in like three scenes. I guess. Yeah, interest in there. I think for me, another takeaway from this film is like I think they missed the mark on what made the other two films, at least what people liked from them.
Mhm.
I'm never a big fan of like sweat. Originally, when they were talking about this is like an Avengers level film. This is like a Kane film. It's gonna be big, grander. Like Ant-Man deserves a grander film. It missed the mark of what made these films good. It's the family dynamic. It's smaller in scale. It's not Avengers level type stuff. It's a funny Ant-Man heist film.
Yeah, it took
This tr-
a leap.
this film tries to be different dimension, fighting off the most powerful villain we've seen,
Mhm.
and it's just like this doesn't jive with what we've been doing. Now you could have done something bigger in scale, but like it's just like we should have known. I should have known. I remember when this film was announced. I remember Jonathan Majors being announced as Kane, and I'm like, Kane in an Ant-Man film?
Yeah,
What? And they teased us. Just teased us. They're like, it's MODOK. He's gonna be awesome in it. And then they had like the promotion for it, and it just I felt teased. I felt teased. And then when I left the theater, I'm like, this doesn't feel like an Ant-Man film. It just missed the mark of the family dynamic. It felt like one big action set piece. And I don't know about you, but I heard somebody describe it, and I think I kind of felt that way. The film simultaneously like felt like 20 minutes, but also 5 hours.
oh yeah. I felt the length, and then I felt like, oh damn, this is a little bit slow at times. I had a little bit of pacing issues.
I remember I just looked at my phone real quick to check the time. I was just like, okay, I'm curious. I'm like, are we through an act yet? And I checked. I'm like, we're an hour and 20 minutes into this film. What? What has happened? Nothing has happened. And then we're like in the final act. And I'm like, what?
Or they
And then like,
when they were like they're approaching Kang's like fortress and everything, and like they got like and he like got the time ball. I was like, oh, we're in the third act already. I was like, oh, it's it's about time.
yeah, I was like, because like the second act, like, does even like a second act exist in this film? I'm like,
Well, I like to think his first act is up to when they get captured, and like yes to when Scott and gets captured, and then that's when they mainly focus on Hope and Janet and their whole like excursion into like
mhm.
trying to get them back. Think of that, and I feel like the second act is just a short thing of this heist because like they try to throw in the heist, and be like, oh, this is just like all the other Ant-Man films, heist time, and I feel like the heist thing is like the whole second act of the movie, and then like third act is just Kang fight. That's what I kind of felt like.
Right, right. I will also want to talk about, I think, a strength of this film, and it should have been the tone of the film, was when we see the original scene of Janet and Kane meeting in the quantum realm. And I thought it was a really interesting backstory. And really feel like this film's at its strength. I really think the best character besides Kane was Janet, because there was you could just see the fear, the horror. You could tell why she didn't want to talk about the quantum realm.
Yeah.
I feel like that should have been the tone of the film, and I just feel like the film tonally misses that and doesn't. My big problem is when films don't understand what its strengths are, and I know you have to fit everything in, but this film, its strengths are when Janet and Kane are interacting, or when either one of them are on screen.
Yeah, they had good
And
chemistry.
Janet, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I said they just had good chemistry.
Yeah, they just had really good chemistry. You could tell that like they had this history and they had this past. And Kane's upset. Kane's frustrated. And Janet basically saved something worse than Thanos from happening. If Kane just got out in the multiverse and destroyed it all. Um, but also she enabled him to take over the quantum realm and stuff and build up an army. Um, yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and that should have been the tone of the movie. I thought it was a really compelling backstory. Um, but yeah, it just like besides that, it just felt like a big action set piece. It's just like one fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Another fight. Okay. A little bit of development. Okay, another fight. It missed the mark for me tonally. I think that's the big thing. I did like the movie overall, but I like it as a film where like I can turn my brain off, and then there's a couple moments where like, oh, this is cool backstory, this is cool development. But for me, for films, for me, I personally love character development. That's what I look at the most. I think that's what just good arcs, and there wasn't that for me.
No, yeah, it sounds like we're being like super negative and hateful towards this movie. It's just there's a lot of cons about this movie. It doesn't even make the movie like terrible. It's just a lot of just like not amazing stuff that could be elevated, stuff that could be better.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. It's just like I'm not trying to, I always do these. I think I could be critical sometimes, but like I do it to because I want the product to be better. That's why I focus on those things more. And I just feel like from like a certain standpoint, like recently these films haven't done as good of a job with the character side of things. Like I just I especially maybe it's coming off of like, I know we're still early in the new saga here, the new multiversal saga, and we haven't seen these characters have their development yet. Um so we have to wait on that, of course. But yeah, I agree with what you said. I think it's perfect. I like the film. I think it's good, but like good from a standpoint, like a certain standpoint, like you could turn your brain off and watch it. It's not like a film you can like critically analyze.
Yeah, that's why
Um,
critics like kind of trash on it. One, because I feel like they're kind of done with like the whole standard MCU formula stuff. Like this is like a fine movie on its own, but from a critical standpoint, this movie is not really good.
right. Yeah, it's like I like when I watched it, I'm like, oh, I understand why critics did not like this film. Um, and it's just a real thing. It's like I don't know how much you buy into it, but like I I really don't buy into either one because anytime I go into a film, I usually don't feel either. Like I don't feel like the audience score is usually really high on any MCU film. You know why? Because it's a movie made for families, and that's a great thing. I appreciate what the MCU has done. It's one of the more magical things ever in cinema history. I mean, look at the box office. I know a lot of film purists don't like it, and I get that. I understand that, but also you have to acknowledge like they saved movie theaters. If you don't have Marvel, you don't have theaters anymore.
Yeah,
Um, and I understand why critics don't like it. I don't like when Scorsese says stuff like this, but it's like it's not cinema.
yeah.
Sure, I get that. I understand what you're saying, but it's weird. Like critics, I want to ask you, what do you think? How much do you buy into these, critic scores and audience score, and what do you just think about them overall? I guess for specifically comic book and Marvel films, I guess.
Usually, I think I usually think audience scores are too high and critics score. Well, as of recent, critic scores have been too low. I feel like they're like trying to be like after Endgame, they've been more critical of the MCU. Like I feel like they're like I don't know. I feel like they're kind of like out of the MCU trance of like, oh, average movie. Because I feel like too most of the MCU movies too, they're not like, amazing plot driven, oh my gosh, I'm going to see this movie for the plot movies. So I feel like kind of after Endgame, they're kind of like, you know what? I think we're gonna just judge these movies a little more harshly because we know what the MCU can do. The MCU, in my opinion, reached its peak from Spider-Man: Homecoming to Endgame. It's kind of like when it peaked. So I feel like now
Right.
it was peaked. They're kind of like, oh, I think it's time to be more a little critical of the movie, while the audiences are kind of just doing same old, same old. I think the most recent Marvel movies have all gotten 80s, except for Thor: Love and Thunder, got like a 76. But even like a 76 is like too kind for that movie.
Right. Absolutely. 100% agree. Yeah. Um, I guess we'll close it up here with some final words and some final predictions, I guess, for the future. And uh, for me, obviously, we're gonna get more Kane and stuff. We're gonna get these Kane variants. Uh, I don't know where these other characters go. They're kind of all arced out. I
Yeah,
mean, the next time I assume we see him is in Secret Wars
yeah, I could,
or Kane Dynasty.
yeah, I could maybe see somebody popping up in uh Secret Wars, and that's it, like Hank or something, because they're trying to get like his Pym Tech or something. That's all I could really see.
But characters like
Oh, why say Secret Wars? Secret Invasion. Sorry,
okay, yeah, I could see that. Um,
wrong secret movie.
Ron Secret. For me, I wouldn't mind if some of these characters. I kind of would hope that they. It's gonna sound wrong. Hope that they die because they're kind of arced out.
No, Michael Douglas said too in the red carpet. He's like, if they were to do a fourth one, what'd you do? He's like, yeah, if I died. It's like, oh damn, he wants out now.
He's the Han Solo now. Hey, Harrison Ford wanted Han to die forever. So, yeah, these even Scott. Scott is arced out. Like he's a hero now. He's a hero to his daughter. What else is there to do with his character?
Yeah, I wouldn't
He's
mind
Ant-Man.
in kind of like in like a Spider-Man situation, how Spider-Man was in Infinity War. How like he didn't really get an arc in that film, but he was entertaining to watch, and he was like, he made like everything smooth go together smoothly with his comedy. I feel like that like would be a good position for Ant-Man. He can kind of like be with other characters, like have some like good jokes, good quips here and there, make the story better overall. But it's not like focusing on him because he's kind of done.
Right, right. I agree with that. And I also think for me to make Kane impactful in Kane Dynasty and Secret Wars, I feel like he needs to kill a lot of fan favorites. Like I'm talking Scott, Hawkeye, even Thor, some of the OGs to make him damn, this guy is insanely powerful.
Mhm.
So I feel like Scott would be an appropriate one to do. I think Cassie's gonna be around because the Young Avengers,
Mhm.
or at the point that they get to the Young Avengers, they'll all be in their mid
Yeah, I
twenties.
was about to what they're doing with all that Young Avenger stuff, like freaking
So the
like 22,
the mid twenties Avengers, just not
the young
just
adult.
the young adult Avengers. Kate Bishop will be Haley Steinfeld will be in her 30s by the time they make the
Yeah.
first Young Avengers film. It's what? No.
Who played Patriot Falcon Winter Soldier, I think is like in his 20s now.
Yeah, it's just yeah, you got to do it sooner or later, I guess. But yeah, where do you see these characters going, I guess, in the future? What do you want from the Ant-Man crew, I guess?
Like I said, I want Ant-Man more in the supportive, like supportive character role. I think that would work for him. He's all done. Hope, I don't know what I want for Hope. I feel like she doesn't have anything more arc wise to go to, but I want to see more of her because we haven't seen a lot of her, and she's like
Mhm.
she's a cool, fun character. I don't know where I would put her though, other than like an Avengers film. But yeah, I
Right,
see more of her for sure. Hank, like I said, maybe Secret Invasion because the Skrulls want Pym Tech because it seems like they're trying to like infiltrate government and get like government stuff. I could also see,
right,
I guess being in Falcon Winter Soldier if they not Falcon Winter Soldier, Captain America, New World Order, because if they still do the whole Captain Carter thing, I cannot speak. So Agent Carter thing where she's trying to get weapons and stuff.
right.
And there, her trying to get Pym Tech, but then again, that movie has like 5 villains apparently in it, so I don't know what that one. But yeah, and then Cassie, I just see Young Adventures. I don't see anything else for her.
Okay. Do you think we get an Ant-Man 4?
Uh, After this box office comes in very lackluster, probably not. I know Marvel, Kevin Feige said on the red carpet that he would want to do an Ant-Man 4 and that an Ant-Man 4 was kind of in the works, but like after they see this like box office, and this film's gonna tank second weekend. Like all Marvel movies open like pretty high, at least 100 million.
You think it's gonna tank? Why do you say that though? Why do you say
Uh,
that?
because one, I feel like people are gonna be disappointed in this movie. Uh,
Okay.
Two, there's no reason to rewatch Ant-Man. A lot of movies, especially MCU movies, get money from rewatchability. This movie
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have rewatchability. It's just
Okay.
that you just turn on, oh, have a good time, then you're all done. I don't feel like the word of mouth is going to be positive enough for people to see it that we're on the edge of seeing it. Like with
Okay.
the Batman had really good word of mouth. That movie came in with an all right, like 125 is like really good, but it came in like with what people thought was disappointing opening weekend, but it had really good holds afterwards.
It did. Right. Yeah.
And so I feel like it's going to be opposite for Ant-Man. Big opening, but then I feel like word of mouth is just not going to be there. I'm like, oh, Kang was so funny. He was kind of cool, but like I'm not going to see a movie for 15 minutes of Kang.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with you. I, I think we'll probably get it. I don't want to see it. I don't care. We're done. We're done with these characters. We're done.
Movies like there's no really interesting Ant-Man villains from the pull out the pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I guess my final thing I'll say is I'll give this movie I gave it a 7 out of 10 yesterday. I'm going to stay with a 7 out of 10. What are you going to give this film?
6.5. Actually, no, we'll give it a 7 because I enjoyed Modoc that much. We'll get
Okay, there we go.
5. There we go. 7 out of 10.
There we go. There we go. Okay, so do you got anything else to say?
No, I think that's all.
All right, that's going to do it for our Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania review. We will be back to discuss the past few weeks of Bad Batch here soon. It's been really good. It's
Yeah.
actually been really good the last few weeks. There's actually been character development. Thumbs up for the show for doing that. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you, Stormy. As always, you were great again. It
Thank you.
was really fun discussion. And we will be back sometime. Who knows? So peace out, everyone.